qu'il y a la nécessité de nous tous de travailler ensemble pour que la tragédie autochtone, qui dure depuis presque 500 ans, ne continue pas. Bravo! I want to thank you for giving me this chance to talk. Let me just go right into it. As members of the Aboriginal Commission start to win their way in, I've just been with them for what was, I thought, a tremendous panel discussion. But I'm really here to talk to members of the Aboriginal Commission and to the young Liberals of Canada. And I'll tell you why. Most of my political career, pendant toute ma carrière politique, j'ai eu l'appui des jeunes libéraux. Ça a été pour moi absolument crucial d'avoir ceux qui représentent la conscience et l'avenir du parti avec moi. I've been able, and I was, throughout my whole political career, able to really rely on the young Liberals of Canada. In fact, if you take a look at those who are my friends today, virtually all of them were young Liberals many years ago. Although, if you look at them today, some of them you wouldn't believe they were ever young Liberals. The fact is that it is that kind of a friendship. These are the bonds that all of you who are young Liberals here today are going to form. Now, let me just go back and tell you why I think it's so important. The Aboriginal Commission and the young Liberals come together. Some 500 years ago, and for a good portion of the history of this country, the main message that was given by the settlers from abroad to the First Nations, to the Métis, to the First Nations on and off reserves as they were set up, and to the Inuit, was that everything that you believe is wrong, and everything that we believe is right. The sooner that you understand this, the sooner your lives will improve. What they were told was that their traditions, potlatches, consensus building, their view of nature was all wrong, and that the great dominant forces, primarily of Europe, from which so many of us have descended, were in the right. And if that message is repeated to you time and time again, it begins to sap your identity and your vitality. Les Premières Nations, les Métis et les Inuits n'ont pas accepté. Ils ont dit, nous n'acceptons pas que vous allez détruire notre identité. What happened to Métis, the First Nations, and the Inuit said, we are not going to do that. And we're going to fight for our identity. We are going to fight for our traditions. We're going to fight for our belief in the land, and we're going to fight for our belief in what is right and wrong in the way that we do it. And yes, we want to be part of the modern economy. Yes, we want to progress, but we want to do it in our own way. And what we're asking you is don't try to impose your will upon us, but work with us. Give us a chance to work together. And the response after Confederation of the dominant forces in this country essentially said, everything you believe is wrong, everything we believe is right. And if you want to make it happen for you, then you'd better assimilate. The First Nations and the Métis and the Inuit said, we will not assimilate. And they went through terrible disease, and they lost an enormous amount in terms of their future, their poverty, and generation after generation, but they would not give in. Then, after a period of time, things started to improve, but it was very slow. It was not until 1953, now you think about this, c'était pas avant 1953, that a status Indian was permitted to go to university in this country. Now some of you, the young Liberals, may not be able to remember 1953, but I remember it well. I was in high school. And the fact is that that was the prevailing governing culture in this country. And then as time went on, further steps improved the situation. The Mulroney government brought in the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, Archive. It did an enormous amount of good work. It's a huge amount of work to read, but it's worthwhile going in because of the analysis that it did. And then when Mr. Chrétien came in, he brought in the Healing Foundation, which began to recognize just how important it was that all of these years, constant you're wrong and we're right, and assimilation had to be set aside. And then, the negotiations began by Andy Mitchell, Andy Scott, Anne McClellan, that led subsequently to the very important apology for the residential schools. And that was an important day. And people have said, well, you know, you did all the work on this. And Stephen Harper apologized, but that doesn't make any difference. The government of Canada apologized to the Aboriginal peoples of Canada for one of the territories. Absolument abhorrent. Ils ont relié l'accord de Cologne. And then what happened? How and where anybody can apologize for residential schools and then renege on the Kelowna Accord is beyond me, but that is what they did. And understand what happened. The Kelowna Accord had two characteristics that I believe will never be lost. And that is that the government of Canada, Prime Minister of Canada and his cabinet, the governments of all of the provinces and the territories, came together with the Aboriginal leadership of this country and said we're going to set clear targets for healthcare, for education, for clean water, and for housing. We're going to set up a means by which accountability will not be something that we impose on you, but something that we work on it together. We work on together. Those targets were set. But even more important, what the provincial governments, the territorial governments, and what the federal government said is that the days in which we're going to try to impose our will upon you are over. We're going to work together. That we really do believe in the inherent right of self-government. We really do believe that those who have been in this land from time immemorial have the right to regain their heritage. That was what really happened in Kelowna. It was 18 months of negotiation. And so what happened as a result of the denial of Kelowna is that the Conservatives drew a line in the sand. We said that the goal of our dealings with Canada's First Peoples